waiting for us to get everything completed. I think everybody knows that the trade that we made is not completed yet, so we can't talk too much about that. But we can talk about the players we drafted. So, and feel free to ask questions. Just, I wanted to start really quickly and then turn over to Acie, can talk about the guys. When thinking about this draft in general, it brought me back to when I was growing up in Boston, and the morning after the draft, when I was a kid, I used to love opening up the newspaper, feeling it in my hands, and seeing kind of how the draft went, and just thinking about the fact that different Celtics players. I remember when D. Brown was drafted at Jacksonville, or Rick Fox from North Carolina. The fact that these guys go from college to the pros, and tonight with the guys that we drafted, we're gaining fans, you know, from those college programs, and that will follow these guys. And there'll be kids in Oklahoma City that are probably gonna know new players, and I think that's a great thing about the draft, is you kind of find out, if you're a college fan, like, who's my new pro team, and that happens all across the country, and it made me think about that. I wanted to start with that. We're extremely excited to have Cason and Keyontae join the team. As I said, Acie will break them both down as players. I think we talk all the time about the fact that we're observing the players until we get to a point where we have to select them. That's a big part of the process, but the biggest part of the process is the development process, which is something that now has to start. And for the guys that we selected last year, you know, they've been through 1 year of development and are entering the second. So this is our third draft since we've really started to pivot the team and make this transition. And we're really thrilled with the way it went, but we still have so much work in front of us. So we're not close to feeling like we're putting the final touches on the team. This is one kind of point in the timeline. We have more work to do, obviously, a lot more decisions to make, more things we need to continue to observe and watch, and we're really excited about that. I do think one thing that we have to recognize is that as we saw, that, you know, the team has sent us signals over the last year that when we have these two-way playmaker types, the performance of the team is really good, and then the development of our players really gets amplified. And so that was some of the thinking with Cason, and in addition to a lot of the intangible aspects that he brings to the table. So again, we're slowly building a foundation that we can continue to work on, and I'll turn it over to Acie. You can talk about both the players.
Thanks, Sam. As you guys know, tonight is a real exciting night, and a lot of work goes into building up to this process. And we feel like we were able to get two guys that make the community proud. Like they fit with the Thunder and what we're trying to build. Cason is a two-way player, smart, tough, resilient, great human being, comes from a great family. Keyontae is as resilient as they come, had a great season, tough two-way player again. We're just excited to get both of those guys in and feel like they're going to contribute to what we're trying to continue to build.
With that, we'll take some questions.
Sam, did you just go for the best player available, or are you to the point where you think about need at all, or you just best player available?
I think for us, I always say this: we're always looking for the best player for the Thunder. So, who is the best fit for the organization? And we're not really, like I said before, we're not trying to like build out the perfect depth chart or the perfect roster, because, as I said earlier, this is the third draft that we've had, and there's going to be a lot more decisions that will be made over the course of time. So really looking for certain characteristics, probably above everything. And as I said before, Cason is, or as Acie said, Cason is a two-way guy. He's got great attributes physically, great length, physical in general, and we just feel like he complements the group that we have and is reflective of the type of players we've had success with. And that's what makes him a good fit for us in terms of on the court, off the court. He's, I think, consistent with the type of people that we're always trying to associate ourselves with, and really stood out that way as well.
With Keyontae, so like I understand you guys vet these guys seriously, but with a guy who's had medical condition like he had, how much more vetting goes into that? Is it different at all?
Well, I mean, in this particular case, the league is really the body that approves that. We were obviously very comfortable with all the information, and the league, really are the people that are saying he's able to be drafted. But we didn't really have any concerns with that. I mean, we've seen all the information. The league's seen all the information. So you're careful with every player, but we feel really good about it.
How much seems like a lot of times guys when they're older, that seems to be a negative. Obviously, that didn't bother you with the drafting Keyontae.
Yeah, you want to talk about that?
Keyontae's a player that we feel that can contribute right away. I think that helps him. His experience and the resiliency that he showed and his talent, we feel like that's a player that could come in, and obviously want to get him in here and get him to work. And we feel like that this is a player that can help us.
Sam, you talked about wanting this team to be physical. Do you think that was a big part of Wallace, drafting Wallace?
I mean, it's a component. I wouldn't boil it down to one thing. I just think the way he plays both ends of the floor are super important. His defensive metrics are like pretty impressive. His finishing is impressive. I just think he's just a really solid player across the board. And he has a knack for being in the middle of things. Now, with all that being said, he's still a young player. Our team is more established than it was a year ago. And he, like every player, is just getting started in terms of their developmental journey. So first thing for us is when we're able to get him with us, which will be once the trade is able to be executed, we have to get a baseline for where he is, understand, where we need to start with him, and we kind of start that process just like we did last year, with the guys that we drafted this time, who's J. Will, J. Dub, Chet. Like, those guys are only going to their first real summer with us, because the first one is a little tricky when coming off the draft, and it's a long road ahead. So we're excited about it. He brings a lot of different things, but he's got to start from the same place all the guys have for the last 15 years.
A lot of his points were unassisted. How exciting is it to add a player like that to the Thunder who share the ball a lot, obviously?
Well, I think that's one of the things about our play style, and like when you're studying the players, you're also thinking about the fact that there's a lot of different. It's hard to find players in the first place. You just look at the numbers. You know what I mean? How rare it is to find players in the draft that are successful. Then you have to think about all the different things that could get in their way of finding success. And I think in this particular case, like, our play style really helps us because we have a lot of flexible players. They can play within this infrastructure that's been created, that Mark and the coaches have done a really good job instilling. And we feel like Cason can just function extremely well because he's so well-rounded with the existing guys that we have, and not have to play in one specific place. And that's benefited us. And as a result of that, we've stumbled onto a lot of different things. Like this time last year, I don't think we would have expected to be playing Kenrich Williams at the 5. And when we kind of stumbled onto that, all of a sudden, a lot of our other players took these huge developmental jumps. That doesn't mean that we're going to do that all the time, but you also can't ignore the signal that that's sending you when all of your players are performing at such efficient levels at times when you're playing with small lineups and you're putting these multiple players on the floor at the same time. So, as I said earlier, we still have a lot more to do with the team over time, but we feel like these two guys will be additive, but they're not. They're certainly no. We're not putting the final touches on anything.
Acie, Sam mentioned Wallace's defensive metrics, and I'm just curious, in your observation of him, what were some of the things that were really jumping out about the way he approaches his job on the defensive end of the floor?
The biggest thing is the maturity in his game. He's a highly intelligent player. He's an extremely tough player. He's competitive. And those are the things that you look for in young players. And as I mentioned before, we're just looking forward to getting him in, seeing his development, seeing him grow. We think that, like Sam said, he can be a big addition to our team.
I think I want to add one thing to that. I think Acie and Vince Rosman did a really good job, really kind of breaking down Cason's just his impact as an off-ball defender and his ability. People talk a lot about basketball intelligence on the offensive floor, but what Acie and Vince, I think, did a great job of identifying is this guy has a high basketball level, basketball intelligence defensively off the ball. His ability to read situations, rotate, anticipate things, break plays up. Just to me, the one thing about him that I really respect and I appreciate is all the hard things about playing basketball, things that a lot of people just don't want to do or have to push themselves to do, he does naturally. And I don't know, I'm not sure where that comes from, but he's got a lot of just natural instincts that really just kind of serve the values of the game.
You used the word in your end-of-season press conference, nasty. And I know a lot of that's going to come just with the physical maturation of the team, but do you feel like tonight you're getting a little bit of that as well, potentially? I
think that's pretty hard to, when I say that, I'm thinking about more of like a collective mindset, more than like an individual thing. I think what we're trying to add with these guys are more like-minded guys. I think it's hard to put that type of moniker on first-year players, but I do think both of them have really strong competitive dispositions, and I think that's always something that we're looking for, and I think they'll do a good job, blending in with the group. But overall, when I'm saying that, that's a team mindset that we have to continue to adopt. As I said many times before, with a younger group, we have to overcome the things that we may lack in experience, and a lot of that is just prioritizing things and making decisions about the things that are going to be most important to us. And sometimes we're going to have to amp it up and be able to hold our ground in situations. And I think that will happen through more experience in situations.
Acie, Sam had mentioned Wallace's off-ball IQ on defense. How about on offense in terms of his ability to play off the catch, straight line drives, all those kind of things that fit into the Thunder system? Yeah,
again, you talk about his maturity. Like, one of the things that we were intrigued with was his ability to play on the ball and off the ball. He's an unselfish player. He plays to win. He doesn't play for himself, and those are things that we value. And I don't want to sound like a tape recorder, but we're looking forward to getting him in because he does a lot of things that we're intrigued with that we like.
Sam, a bit of a different question, but honestly about Will Dawkins, obviously in Washington now. Just what was it like not having him around tonight? First time in about a decade and a half.
Well, I mean, I've been with him for a really long time, so I'm super proud and excited for him. And he's already off to a great start, obviously. And to be with Michael, just to have those two guys working together it's surreal, and I'm super grateful because I know myself personally, like, I've been so blessed over the time I've been here to work with people like that, to have had Will for that long. I was the beneficiary of that, just like with Mike or any of the other guys, and now, Acie has stepped right in and has done an incredible job this year. And so, we're a collection of individual people that are all kind of working towards a common goal, and I want to believe that, when people leave here and they go into bigger and better things, that they feel like they did, some of their best work of their lives, and I just couldn't be more excited for him. I think it's great, and I think he's going to do great.
What's it feel like? You got quite a few disciples, I guess, around the league that have worked here and out of your program.
Yeah, I mean, again, we've been so lucky. We've been very fortunate in a lot of ways. Obviously, we've been very fortunate with players, and we've gotten lucky in a lot of ways with our players and the things that they've contributed to the organization, the way they've represented the organization. And then, I just think people in general, we've been super blessed. We've had some people with us for 16 years and other people that were with us for a few years and were able to move on to other opportunities. But it's something that we all contribute to. I don't think it's like a one person thing. I think we're all serving the organization. It's no one's personal job. We're like serving the position. And I just feel very grateful to have worked with these people over the course of time.
Casey, in your role, how much is beyond just observing and evaluating basketball talent? How much is personal interaction, chatting with these guys, getting to know them?
With the draft prospects?
Right.
That's a part of the process. My responsibility is to lead our scouting group. We run an extensive process to get to this point. And a part of that process is spending time with the players. But primarily my role is to lead our scouting department.
I'm not saying this is why you did it, but you take personal pride that first pick tonight was a Dallas guy.
That didn't go into it. I'm here to.
That's not what you said back there.
I'm excited for Cason, but more importantly, I'm excited to be a part of this great organization. Going through this, I'm learning a lot. This guy here is amazing, and I'm just looking forward to contributing to helping this community be proud of this team.
Is there anything, and I know that players are different, but Kentucky's put out a lot of guards. Does that play any role, maybe a coaching style that they get under Cal or anything like that, or is that just individual?
As I mentioned before, we're going through this process with open mind, trying to find the best players, guys that are fits for our organization, and that was no different tonight. Cason we feel like is a wonderful individual. We feel like he's tough, as I mentioned before. We feel like he's a great player. Feel like he has a bright future ahead of him, and we're looking forward to just getting him in house and working with him and just seeing where it goes.
Barry, I just add one thing to what you asked, and then kind of a combination of things that Myron had mentioned, like having someone like Acie working with us, who's played in the league, been drafted, has all this basketball experience. Again, like I'm sitting in a room with Nick, Nazi, people that have done this for their, have been part of the 450 people that play in the NBA, and their insights into these things, especially spending time with the guys, I think is a huge advantage, because they've been in that position, and now they're in, obviously in a different, on a different side of it, but it's a huge help to have somebody that's played at the highest level and can give you a better insight into like maybe what I might be missing or someone else might be missing. So it's been hugely valuable to have those guys, and then even Eric, Maynard, Mike Wilkes, and DJ White is with us now. So you can never underestimate the value of people that have done that. It's it's a rare thing.
A lot of guys talk about wanting this, but with Keyontae, we're talking about a guy that was in a coma, who gave up $5 million for the chance to keep playing basketball. You guys are hoopers at heart. What does that story mean to you?
It means that he loves to play. And what better person to add to your organization? Somebody that really passionate about this game, takes it seriously, professional, and wants to be the best version of themselves. And for us, we're looking forward to getting them in so we can help contribute to them, hopefully doing that.
Yeah, he's the thing about him that sticks out is like he's all business, and it's been fun to follow, the journey back to this point, and I can't even imagine what he's feeling, and I'm just really excited to meet him and his folks, and as I said before, just it's a serious. Both of these guys are pretty serious guys, and so I think we'll really enjoy getting to know them, and I think you guys will too as well.
Sam, last
Couple
year
more.
you talked about late in the draft process that J-Dub was a guy who kind of beat down the door for you guys.
Yeah.
And then at the same time, on the other end of the equation, you have guys like Chet, who's more of a known commodity, and Ooze, who was on your radar for a while. Where does Cason fall in sort of that matrix of things?
That's a great question. I know the longer I've done this now, and I was saying this to the staff this morning a little bit, I think that's why I'm always using like observation. You probably hear me say that a lot. I think one of the things about the draft is you kind of sometimes have to let it kind of come to you a little bit. And I think you just have to be very patient with it. I mean, we saw him play many, many times. I don't want to tell you that we were sitting there in December, saying this is the person we're going to draft. You don't know. You have to just stay so open, and I think stop yourself from like making big judgments early. I can say we went to see him play early in the season. It was in Indianapolis.
Yeah.
Indianapolis, and I saw him at McDonald's. I liked him at McDonald's because he was all serious dude, and he was there to get better, and then in the first time I saw him live in Indianapolis, he was doing these small things that I would call like no agenda basketball, like kick aheads, every block out, two-hand contests, things that are really hard to do, and for a player of that caliber or talent to do those things naturally, that really kind of caught my attention. And then as we work through the process, as I said before, it's not just as much as people want to believe it's like ranking the most talented players. It's not really like that. It's also how can we help them be successful here, and what are the headwinds that they could run into? How do they help amplify the other players that we might have? Because if you are so focused on selecting who's going to go down on the list as like the most talented in some type of redraft on the internet, I think you run a huge risk of putting yourself in position to select somebody that doesn't really have a chance in your particular organization for one reason or another. So you have to, I think, for me, I try to handicap the obstacles each player might face, and also the effect that those obstacles or that player might have on other players that are existing on the team. It's not as easy as just take the best player. The other aspect that can't go underestimated is I don't know how you could do any type of evaluating if you couldn't meet anybody. I think that's like almost impossible. Now, that shouldn't stop somebody from doing a ranking or something like that on the internet, but I'd find it really hard to draft if I didn't know the people, because at the end of the day, it's a team that has to work together, and without knowing how that person might function within your group or complement the other personalities, you're really guessing anyway, but now you're just like blindly guessing.
As soon as the pick went down, Keyontae had a quote where he said that the vibes kind of matched and clicked with you guys in that meeting. What was it like on your end as somebody that drafts 4 people, the vibes with Keyontae Johnson in the pre-draft?
I don't know. I mean, he was here. He met a lot of people while he was here during his visit. I think he liked the workout that we had for him. We changed the workouts based on who's comprised in the workout. I think we did a good job, kind of stimulating him athletically, competitively, and I think he had a great approach to the whole thing. I think he left a positive impression on us. But we he's not far. He wasn't playing far from here, so we had a pretty good handle on him, and we feel pretty fortunate that he was there. But as I said before, like, this is the starting point of his development track. It's the end of his amateur career, and like really just the beginning of his professional career. So we have to see where that heads. But I think he feels comfortable here. I think Cason felt the same thing, and I do think that matters. I do think that matters.
One last thing for me.
Go ahead,
Sam.
Barry, last one.
Some of the things you've said about Wallace tonight, I don't remember what you said a year ago, but it struck me that it's some of the things that I saw, and I think you probably saw in Santa Clara Williams throughout his rookie year, in terms of not necessarily one thing he does great, but
Right.
he just does everything right and a lot of things well. Are there similarities between the two?
No, I wouldn't compare the two players in terms of like their games, so to speak. I do think that they both play both ends, and they both do things that drive winning, but maybe aren't like smashing you in the face, like highlight reel type stuff. Yeah, there's some there are some similarities, but just as I'm thinking about Cason here, like he was a football player, younger when he was younger, and I think you see some of these like secondary type instincts in him defensively, and as the more we watched him, he just has really good anticipation. I think again, with a lot of the guys that we have currently, their ability to think the game and make quick decisions, but that doesn't always mean with the ball. You know what I mean? And so that's one of the things that I think both those guys have, but I think a lot of our guys kind of possess some of that. But yeah, they're well-rounded players that do small things that I think drive winning and fit the play style we're striving for. And you know, I'm excited to see how he blends in with everybody.
Thank you, guys. Thanks, everybody, for staying up with us.
Thanks again.
Thank you.